y'all, my name is Shekinah Simone, and I'll be talking about how to choose your major for undergrad. So if you are going into law school, I will say, and this is from personal experiences, knowing people who have gone to or have finished law school and everything, it does not matter what your major is to get into law school itself. You can have any major and get into law school. So if you are looking to do that in your future, that's not really a concern that you need to have if you aren't sure of what you want to do with your law degree just yet. But on the other side of things, if you are sure of how you want to exercise your law degree, I would just recommend doing something that is relevant for your field as my cat walks in. So for example, if you want to be an environmental rights lawyer, it would make sense to major in a STEM field such as environmental science, biology, anything like that, given that that's what you'll really delve into and be practicing with in your career field. But if you want to be, for example, a human rights lawyer, then something in the social sciences would make the most sense. So if you want to go to law school, you're not exactly sure of what you want to do with your law degree, don't fret. You can get into law school with any major. But once you know exactly what kind of law that you want to get into, that's whenever you can craft your experiences, right? And part of that is choosing a major that will help you the most in your career. Now for pre-med, pre-dent, pre-vet, any field in like the health professional sense, STEM field is the route that most people will take. That being said, there are a few instances where people don't major in a STEM field. I have heard of that. The one example I can think of personally, someone wanted to be a psychiatrist in a long term, so they majored, either they double majored or was their main major, I'm not sure, but psychology was in the mix, and then next would be med school, and then it'd be like residency, all that. So that makes sense, even beyond it being, I suppose, relevant. There have been instances where people who maybe just like art, so they majored in art and they made sure that they just got the required courses for med school, have gotten into med school and things like that. It's really just, for that, it's just a matter of hitting the prerequisites and the required courses and getting that shadowing work experience that you need for your field. In that regard, it is harder because you're balancing kind of like a degree that you're interested in pursuing while getting that required courses. So it's a lot to manage and to keep track of. Not discouraging it at all, very much to each their own. And as mentioned, there have been folks who have gotten into med school who have non-STEM majors that don't really relate to what they want to do overall. Do what makes sense for you, but just keep in mind that it will be harder. If you want to be a health professional and you're in some kind of STEM field, most likely you'll meet most, if not all, of the requirements just by following your designated degree path. So for me, I majored in biological sciences. Most health professional students did. And when I say health professionals, I mean the pre-med, pre-dent folks. For pre-vet, a lot of people did animal science because you get that hands-on animal experience mixed in there. So it's dependent on what you want to do overall, and you look at your degree program and you see what experiences that you gain just from following that degree, and whether you need to do like extracurriculars to make up for a certain point, if you need to take extra classes to make up for something that might be missing in a course load. It's really just knowing what you want to do overall and having that major that will put you in the best position possible. I will say that for a lot of STEM fields, people major in a STEM field with the intent of continuing their education. Yes, you can get a job, even a high-paying job with just a biology degree and things like that, but it's pretty hard to come by, being completely honest. And as mentioned, most people already have in mind, I'm not ending at the undergraduate level. I'm going to pursue higher education because I want to get into that dental school, med school, vet school, PA school, whatever the case may be, they're going to further their education in some way, so they're not just leaving it at that degree. So if you don't want to go like the health professional route, but you want to major in a STEM field, keep that in mind and see what kind of jobs and the pay for those jobs that you can get with just having that undergraduate degree. And also with like the nursing major and like the engineering major, some things are clear cut like that. So like, yeah, if you want to be an engineer, it's just a matter of figuring out which kind of engineering you want to get to. If you want to be a nurse, you can do like the RN, BSN. There's different types of nursing, right? So those are kind of more clear cut, but definitely I understand that there's a lot of consternation regarding the fields where it's more wide open and things like that. But it's really just like knowing what your abilities are, what your means are, and what your long-term goals are, and then figuring out your major from there. Some careers are like set to boom in the next decade, others are like in decline, others are like moderate. Again, just look at like the average salary for the area that you want to be in, the job that you want to do, and make an informed decision from there. So whenever you're choosing, it's kind of like you need to look 2 steps ahead to really make the best decision for you in the long term. Along with choosing a major, choosing a school to go to can be a huge anxiety-inducing process. I realize that, which, as mentioned in one of my other videos, it's kind of like you apply to several places to get yourself the best shot, and like one getting accepted, and then like hopefully get accepted into several schools. You can choose which one fits you the best. Definitely look into the culture of a school if you are able to, for sure. You know, some people are just like, look, one school, if one accepts me, that's it. We're going to make the most of it, which is fine. That is okay. Definitely do what suits you the best. But if you have the choice to choose, definitely there are a few things to take into consideration, right? So definitely the first thing to take into consideration, like once you have been accepted to several schools, let's say, are the financial impacts of the decision. Luckily for me, I was able to graduate from undergrad without taking out any loans or anything like that. So definitely there are schools that if you have like high scores, if you're like a really good student coming out of high school, they'll throw money at you. So some schools will pay you to go to school. I definitely understand the appeal of like going to a certain school over others just because like of prestige, because of name. But that's where like thinking 2 steps ahead comes into play. There are many people who do very well in life that did not go to like the top schools that come to mind for you for a lot of fields. And that's definitely something that I've come to realize as like I continue in like my professional and academic career. People come from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of schools, small schools, large schools, mid-sized schools, like no-name schools, like schools of high prestige, every which way and the other, but they all end up in the same place. So it's really dependent on what you want to do overall. Look at, so let's say you have a company in mind that you want to work for, look at where they select students from. For example, I know for like business students, MBA students, even for like law students, if they really want to work at like Big Four, or for these like bigger companies, they'll want to go to like T14 schools and things like that. That is definitely something to keep into consideration if that's like your career path and things like that. Also know they choose people from like outside of that, but you know, the big part of their candidate pool does come from that. So definitely I understand, but just know that that's not the case for a lot of schools though. Like for like medical school, for example, like as long as you're in medical school, a medical degree is a medical degree. They're all rigorous. Same thing for vet school, same thing for dent school. I never stopped while I was at my orthodontist to ask what school he went to. Like, you know, that some fields it really doesn't matter. As long as you went to that school, got like that training at like an accredited school, that is fine. Who's gonna ask? Who's gonna know? Make sure that you like the region. Definitely for me, like for example, what I can think of, whenever I was a resident assistant, of course there were people from other parts of the country, right? In Louisiana, especially in southern Louisiana, hurricanes are normal to the locals. So, and it's like Cat 4, Cat 5, Cat 3 is still like, you know, causes a lot of damage, but we're used to it. Like in Louisiana, right? It's seasonal. It's part of what we are, right? But if you're from out of state, it's gonna catch you off guard. So keep that in mind, like whenever you're moving to a region that you haven't been before, like the weather, the climate, whether it be like the political climate of the area or the actual like weather climate of the area kind of thing, that it's going to be a change, and see if that fits you and your vibe, or if it doesn't, if you're able to deal with that while you're enrolled at that institution. Culture is a huge thing. So some people are able to cope, adapt, even become part of that culture. Other people, they are repelled by it. So definitely look into the culture of not only the school itself, but the region itself that the school is in. Let's say it's in a town or in a city that you're not used to. What I can think about is, like, I've lived in larger cities for like the past 2 or 3 years, and coming to my current school, it's a small town. It's rural, and I was like, okay, which I knew that going in, but it's different once you're here and you experience it, which it's really pretty. I like it, but it's still a different pace than what I'm used to. So it took me a while to go like, oh, okay, yeah, this is gonna be my reality for like the next 4 years. A slower pace whenever I'm used to, like, you know, more hubbub, I suppose. So just know that, just keep in mind that it might differ, and just figure out what you're willing to deal with. Also good to take into consideration what opportunities that you'll have while in school, which whenever you want to do well in your career or get a job right out of college, you need some kind of real world experience, right? Whether it be an internship or whatever the case may be, right? Different cities have different capabilities. So in a larger city, of course, it's gonna be easy to find something that suits you, right? If you want to have a business or like fashion marketing internship and you're in like top 10 cities in the US, of course it won't be really hard to come by. But if you go to like a smaller school in like a more rural region, you're gonna have to like travel a bit. You have to look harder for it. You might, it's more of an investment. So weighing like the pros and cons of that as well, how well you'll be able to incorporate the extracurriculars that you want to have. To recap, whenever you're choosing a major, and also whenever you are choosing a college to attend, think 1 or 2 steps ahead. See if what you choose to major in, or where you choose to go to school, where that places you once you're actually in your career. Good resources to look at for that are LinkedIn. You can see other alumni and like professionals that are in the career that you want to pursue, and see their background and see how well that mimics. You can reach out to people at the institutions that you're interested in, other students. There's a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. It's just really knowing what exactly to look up and what information to take in. They're still teaching courses, right? They're still doing it as a hobby. They're in these clubs, they're in these organizations, so that their skills don't atrophy. And that goes beyond just like, you know, art fields and things like that. Even for STEM, it's just like for med students, like maybe you really have a creative side that you don't feel like you can really hone in on because you're so focused on your STEM courses. Trying to find that happy medium, again, those clubs, those organizations, those workshops, different things, so that you can keep up with that skill and try to make the best of both worlds. It kind of sucks that you're not able to do both things, do everything that you want to do. But again, you're thinking with your future self in mind, and I feel like your future self will thank you. And if you're really determined about it, you'll be able to figure it out where you're able to cater to both of those worlds.